Alright, so I was watching Carl Froch's latest video. This is on the Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou situation. He titled the video, "You're hurting the game of boxing." Carl Froch responds to Tyson Fury. This was on Froch on Fight in his YouTube channel, which is becoming a channel that I'm quite enjoying now, I have to say. Carl Froch, obviously as a fighter, I had a lot of respect for Carl Froch. Tremendous fighter, tremendous warrior. As a pundit, I enjoy him. I really do. He is more, I suppose you would say by today's standards, he's more outspoken than a lot of people, certainly are in the boxing media nowadays. If Carl Froch gives his opinion on something, regardless of whether it's a Sky show, regardless whether it's a TNT, the Zone show, he doesn't toe the company line, which I respect. He just says it like it is, and he always just gives his just straight and honest opinion. And I like Carl Froch. I think he's got good banter as well. When he came around first as a pundit, I didn't warm to him. I think that Sky at the time were trying to use Carl Froch as to gain boxing knowledge and insight, which Carl Froch doesn't really have that, and it showed, I think, in a lot of his commentaries. And I think he tried himself to maybe try and sound a bit, and he kind of realised, look, this isn't what I'm good at, this isn't what I'm into, I'm just going to say it like it is. And honestly, he's been a revelation over the last few years. He really has, in terms of just the punditry end of it. I really enjoy Carl Froch. But obviously he was having a talk about Tyson Fury in his video. Now, Fury made comments about Tyson Fury made comments about Tony Bellew and Carl Froch at the Francis Ngannou press conference, saying that they were small, they were unknown, and they made no money in their careers, right? Whereas Tyson Fury, a guy who only a year ago on True Geordie, when True Geordie interviewed him, said that he wasn't in boxing for money, but now he's saying that he's making the most lucrative deal in boxing history. Strange that. And obviously he said that he doesn't want to fight Alexander Usyk because, unless Usyk takes the small end of the purse, that he's fighting for money, basically, which contradicts what he said about this time last year. Anyway, Carl Froch was away last week, so he said he's only getting to the comments now. And first off, he addressed the money thing. He said, look, Tony Bellew and himself, they both made decent enough money in their career. Bellew had his pay-per-view fights with David Haye. He sailed off into the sunset with his faculties in check, as too did Carl Froch. As far as he's concerned, that's the most important thing. He's not shy of a few quid. He doesn't really care. But I'll quote him directly here. So this was one of the things, it's a lengthy one, that Carl Froch said on Tyson Fury. He said, alright, you're talking about money. That's great. But when your career is over, you want your legacy to be intact. The fans are turning against you. It's sad to see. Deep down, I think you're hurting the sport. You're taking the money instead of being full of pride for the sport. I'll tell you something as well. You can have as much money as you want, but if you turn up to the Hall of Fame party next year, you won't be dining on the top table with me and my peers. You won't belong there with that CV. And that is what Carl Froch has to say on Tyson Fury. And the Fury fanboys, who have himself proclaimed as the greatest heavyweight of this era and of all time, stemming from what exactly? 6 world title fights, 3 against the same guy. Oh, but if he fought them all, he'd beat them all anyway. Well, you don't know that. You don't have a magical ball that you can look into alternate worlds and say, oh, well, if Fury fought Sanchez, this would happen. If he fought Usyk, this, you can't do that. And by people saying that, oh, well, Tyson Fury beats them all anyway, so what's the point? Well, you're giving him carte blanche to not take these fights, aren't you? We don't know. You might think he beats Frank Sanchez, you might think he beats Arsenal-backed Makhmedov, but you don't know that for definite. Until he's in there fighting them, you can't turn around and say for definite, this is what's going to happen. Just to go back on what Carl Froch said there about the fans turning on him, I myself have noticed that. I know other people in the boxing communities have noticed that as well. And at the end of the day, Tyson Fury is doing this himself. He is trying to gaslight the fans into thinking that everyone's avoiding him and this is the only fight that makes logical sense because it's a big money fight, no one else in the division wants to fight. That is not true, right? Anyone with a brain knows that. We all know that, right? Even the Fury fanboys deep down, they know that, right? And I think the fans, the fact that Fury is clinging onto that WBC title, he's going around proclaiming himself as the greatest of all time when he's not proven it. And he's, by his own admission, has no interest in unifying, undisputed or having the fights with the best available contenders. The fans are looking at that and saying, well, what are you doing? And yet at the same time, he's trying to, spin a narrative and this, that, and the other. And the fans are like, what the F? And I think that the fans wouldn't, look, I'll just say it, right? I wouldn't mind Fury and Ngannou if he came out started this year and said, look, WBC, take the title away. I don't want it. I don't want the obligations of mandatories that come with it. I've no intention of unifying. There's no point me being champion. Take your title back. I don't want to go for undisputed. I would rather take the big money fights, fight a Francis Ngannou and then a John Jones in these exhibition type fights. That's the road I want to go down. If he went down that road, I think the fans would turn around and say, okay, fair enough. Because when you're not holding the division up, you've given the title away. The division can move on. Usyk can fight for the vacant title, or he can fight the winner of whoever fights for the vacant title. You're doing your own thing. You're a non-factor in the heavyweight division. But the fact that he's not doing that, he's keeping the title, he's been given carte blanche by the WBC to do that, and the fact he's still going around saying, I'm the greatest, they're all bums, this, that, the other, I don't need to fight them and all, it's like, the fans don't like that. Even the die-hard fans, the ones who have, eyes to see and ears to hear, they're the ones who are saying, no, that's not right. That isn't right. And when it's all said and done, if by the time Fury finishes his career, let's say he fights Francis Ngannou, doesn't fight Alexander Usyk, fights a John Jones, and maybe only because of pressure to the BBC intervene and make him champion emeritus or champion in recess or something like that. If by then he decides, right, I've had enough, I'm just going to stay on this exhibition scene, in about 5, maybe 10 years' time, that guy's legacy is going to be non-existent, right? You could look at it and say, oh yeah, he done well against Klitschko, and he beat Wilder for the title, but he never did anything else apart from that. 6 world title fights, 3 against the same guy. Spent the latter part of his career fighting MMA guys in big money fights. Made a lot of money, but in terms of how he'll be remembered long term, he won't be. He won't be remembered in the same light as the Muhammad Ali's, the George Foremans, the Ron Lyle, but I was just thinking of the 70s heavyweights, the George Foremans, the Larry Holmes, the Evander Holyfields, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, etc., who fought everyone and tried to fight everyone. He won't be remembered like that. So I agree wholeheartedly with what Carl Froch is saying there. And, again, I big Carl Froch up a lot. Like, Carl Froch is not afraid to speak his mind on anybody. Carl Froch is very good friends with Tony Bellew, and even Carl Froch has been critical of him. All right, so Carl Froch, when it comes to boxing and giving his thoughts on something, what I respect a lot about him is that he's not afraid to rub people up the wrong way, even if he's close with them. If they're talking absolute nonsense or if they're acting in a way, he's saying it. And I like that. That's why I like seeing Carl Froch on DAZN. That's why I like seeing him on Sky. Because with Carl Froch, what you see is what you're going to get. If he's saying, I don't rate fighter A, that is his genuine opinion. Whereas I think in boxing now, a lot of the times with punditry, you see it all the time, whether it's Sky, DAZN, TNT. If they have a stake in a fighter, it doesn't matter what that fighter does in the ring, whether he wins or loses. If he wins, he's the best thing since sliced bread. If he loses, it's external factors. It's like the Daniel Dubois situation when he, lost Alexander Usyk. They're not mentioning the fact that he quit in the 9th round. They're all saying, he should be champ, he should be this, that, blah, 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 etc., etc. When you look at, like, Sky, it's like, this guy, but he only lost because of extra, blah, 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 blah. It's not like, give the other guy credit and, keep it objective. And you can tell with a lot of them, that's what they're saying is not what they actually think. Whereas with Carl Froch, what he's saying is what he thinks. And I like that. I like that about him. That's his thoughts on Tyson Fury. Let me know your thoughts on the whole situation. Do you think that Carl Froch is right, that Tyson Fury is hurting his legacy and that the fans are? Well, I certainly believe that they are, because I've seen it. You look, apart from the few Fury sycophants who show up in the comment section and, do add him and attacks on, me and the other subscribers and stuff like that. Apart from those idiots, the majority of people who have said to me, I like Tyson Fury, I was a big fan of his, but now I really don't care, and for me it's like, right, Tyson Fury is a great fighter, in terms of what he brings in terms of talent. It's tremendous. That's why it's so frustrating seeing him go down this path, because I'd love to see him fight Usyk. I'd love to see him fight these guys, the Frank Sanchez's, the Arsenal, the Makhmadovs, the Bakadir Jalalovs of the world, just to see what would happen, because he's talented, and I want to see people make the most of their talent. That's what I want to see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.